So here's a thought. What if all the chaos, all the good stuff, everything happening in the world, what if it wasn't random? What if it was actually a mirror, reflecting what we all deep down desire? We're going to dive into this really fascinating and honestly pretty provocative idea from an author named Xu Feng. He argues that our collective wishes are literally shaping the world around us. So yeah, let's get into it.
So Xu Feng kicks things off with this really simple but, man, powerful story. He talks about this guy he knew who was just constantly complaining. You know the type, right? Complaining about people, about society, how unfair everything is. His life was a total mess. But then Xu Feng asks him a super direct question. Okay, but what kind of life do you actually want? And nothing. The guy just couldn't answer. He had no vision, no idea. And this little story right here is basically the jumping off point for this whole thesis.
And just like that, the author turns that exact same question on us, on you. I mean, think about it. It's so easy to point out what's wrong with the world or what's wrong in our own lives, right? But could you, right now, if I asked you, describe in super clear detail the life you really want? It's a tougher question than it sounds. And that leads us straight into his first big point.
So, the first part of his argument is all about this idea of being a man without a wish.
Okay, get this. The author makes this incredibly bold claim. He says that a whopping 90%, 90, of people have never, ever seriously sat down and really thought about the kind of life they truly want. And he says for the 10% who have, their visions are usually all over the place, totally contradictory, or just not realistic. And according to him, this is where the core problem starts, a world just full of people who don't even know what they're wishing for.
Okay, so from there, he takes this idea about one person not knowing what they want, and he blows it up to a global scale. He's basically saying our collective confusion isn't just an idea, it has real, tangible consequences for the entire planet.
So Xu Feng tells us to just look around. He points to all these really troubling things going on. You've got natural disasters getting worse and worse, wars escalating all over the place, societies in total chaos, major economies on the brink of collapse. And then this kind of weird one, a rise in prophecies that seem to be coming true with, scary accuracy. His point is that these aren't just a bunch of separate random problems. He sees them as symptoms of one single, deeper issue.
And this is where we get to the absolute heart of his thesis. According to Xu Feng, none of this is an accident. He says, flat out, that all of these global events, the good and the bad, are a direct result of humanity's collective inner desire. It's something he calls the heart's wish.
So what exactly is this heart's wish? Well, the way he explains it, it's basically the grand total of humanity's deepest, most fundamental desires all rolled into one. It's not about what we say we want on the surface. No, this is the deep, underlying current of our collective mind. And his big claim is that this collective wish is so powerful it literally shapes the reality we all share.
All right, I know this might sound a bit abstract, right? So the author actually gives us a mechanism for how this whole wish thing could work in the real world. And he uses the fact that so many prophecies seem to be coming true as his main piece of evidence.
He poses the question directly. Why are so many prophecies coming true lately? Does that mean the future is all set in stone? Well, according to him, no, not at all. Instead, he thinks it tells us something really, really important about where we are collectively right now.
And this is where his logic gets really interesting. He says prophecies aren't predicting some fixed, unchangeable future. Think of them more like a weather forecast for our collective heart's wish. They're just reading the current direction we're all heading in. So if these prophecies are coming true, it's simply because, as a group, we haven't changed our minds. The future they predict becomes a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, and we're the ones powering it. But, and this is the key, if we were to fundamentally change our collective wish, poof, all those dire predictions would be wrong. And to back this idea up, he points to the famous story of a man named Yuan Liufan. So the story goes that Liufan's entire life, like every detail, was predicted with perfect accuracy by a fortune teller. But then a wise sage taught him this principle: my destiny is made by me. So Liufan got to work, actively changing his actions, changing his mindset, and guess what? Every single one of those predictions about his future turned out to be wrong. He basically rewrote his own fate just by changing his own wish.
Okay, so if we accept his premise for a second, that our collective wish really does shape our world, then, according to the author, humanity is standing at a huge crossroads right now, a real turning point with two very different futures ahead.
And this is where he lays down a pretty serious warning. He says if our collective wish just keeps going on its current path, which he describes as being full of confusion and conflict, then all the bad stuff we're seeing now, the disasters, the chaos, it's not just going to continue. It's going to get much, much worse. Those dire prophecies will become our actual reality. So he lays out the choice very, very clearly. There are two paths. Path number one is just do nothing. Business as usual. Our collective wish stays the same, and we get the future the prophecies are warning us about. Path number two, though, is the path of conscious change. We actively decide to change our collective wish for the better. And by doing that, we create a peaceful, amazing world, and all those bad prophecies just fizzle out.
And this all brings us to his conclusion. And you know, it's not a message of doom and gloom. It's actually one of empowerment. He's saying the responsibility, and more importantly, the power to choose which path we take, it's all on us.
So what's his specific solution? Well, he proposes that if all of humanity could shift its collective desire towards something he calls Shufeng-style communism. Now, the text defines this as a new way of living where people are free from chasing money, power, or fame, and instead live together in this really harmonious, selfless community. He believes that one change would be enough to cancel out all the bad prophecies and bring about that peaceful, heavenly life he talks about.
But in the end, his most powerful message is one of total self-reliance. He's basically saying, do not wait around for gods or saviors to come rescue. Don't look to the heavens. He says to save ourselves is precisely ourselves. The power to make things better or to let them get worse, it lies right here with us.
And that brings us full circle, right back to that first simple question. If there's even a little bit of truth to what this author is saying, if our wishes, both yours and mine, and ours together, really do shape our world, then it leaves us with one heck of a question to think about. What are you wishing for?